Alrighty guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at a new and improved best build in New World. Now I'm going to go into elaborate detail in this video as why I believe this is personally the best build available in the game. It's both the best in PvP and PvE. There are a few exceptions, but we will go through these piece by piece. As you can currently see, I'm holding the Great Axe in one hand, and then on my other hand, or my off hand, I'm also holding the Ice Gauntlet. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it and look at a couple of things. Now we're going to look at our Great Axe ability. Now I know what you're thinking. Goose, you don't have access to this ability over here, Gravity Well. Now, you're absolutely correct. I do not rate Gravity Well, and I'm going to explain all that in the video. So this is a very tailored, specific build based on what I'm currently rocking. But before we go into details about the Great Axe, let's actually have a look over at our attribute points. Now, our attribute points are nearly perfect. Something very important to keep in mind in this game is the bonuses you get for every 50 points in something. So you can see I'm rocking 51 strength, I'm rocking 50 dex, I'm rocking 151 intelligence, 5 focus, and 190 constitution. In a perfect world, I'd have 50 strength, and I'd have 150 int, and I'd have 200 con. That's where in coming into play special food is. Now I have this sandwich here that I can currently eat, which is going to increase my constitution by 10. So that is going to give me that initial constitution buff, which is also going to increase my physical resistance, not my elemental, but my physical resistance by an additional 20%. So let's have a quick look at this right now. So 50 strength, the important thing about this node is it's going to amplify my light attack damage and my heavy attack. No, it's just my light attack damage by 5%. That's really important because a lot of my damage, in fact my main form of damage, will be coming from my weaving. Now, I'll explain to you what weaving is in a moment. So something I'm going to point out about a Great Axe is it by default has, let's have a look at our Great Axe here. Our Great Axe ain't that crash hot. It by default has a 3% crit chance, right? On top of that, you can get a crit chance on an axe, therefore it'll have a 13% crit chance. On top of that, you can also get a ring, which will give you an additional 10% crit chance. Now you're rocking a pretty high crit chance, right? On top of all of these different things, you've also got the amplifiers in the skill tree, but we'll go into that in a moment. Now, the gems that I currently have selected in both my weapons are going to be gems that amplify my damage off my intelligence. So even though I'm rocking a Great Axe, I have 50 in strength and 151 in int. I've also got another 5% crit rate from the dexterity meter that I have taken here. So the first node in intelligence doesn't really help me unless I'm going to be utilizing my Ice Gauntlet. The second one's going to be an amplifier on my crit damage, which the Great Axe also has as well. Therefore, I'm stacking a double amplifier of crit damage, while the final node is going to be an enhancement to 15% elemental damage. So this means my conversion of elemental damage is 65% as opposed to 50-50 with my physical damage. Focus gives me nothing. The yield we're also going to get is 20% better on healing potions as well from constitution, increasing my maximum health based off of my armor alongside another node reducing critical damage I take. Now the final node that we will have access to is increasing my armor value by an additional 20%. Right, now that we've looked at the basic numbers and stats, let's move straight over towards our weapons. So in our Great Axe, here's what we're currently rocking. We're rocking our Dash, which is going to be our charge. We've got our Reap, and we've also got our Maelstrom. Now, a lot of the nodes that I've taken, I want to quickly point out to you guys, because I'm adamant that I believe this is the best build that I can get on the Great Axe for the play style that I want in PvP and in PvP about controlling a battlefield and removing players' abilities to escape me. There is honorable mentions such as heavy pull, but heavy attacks do take quite a long time, and it's going to be very hard for you to land them unless you've like broken an opponent's guard or, you know, an opponent is stunned. Now that being said, we've got Greed. It's going to increase my light attack damage. It's going to be very important in my build when I incorporate my weaving, which I'm about to demonstrate for you right now. Whenever I critically hit with a Great Axe, I heal 10% of my damage. So remember, a Great Axe has 3% crit chance. We're going to round that up to 5 for talking's sake. 5% crit rate. Then on top of that, my dexterity at 50 gives me an additional 5% crit rate, giving me 10% crit rate, right? On top of that, my ring gives me 10% crit rate, giving me 20% crit rate. And then if I had the roll on my axe, which I don't at the moment, that'd give me a 30% crit rate. Then further on down the tree, you're going to notice nodes such as this one here, which increases my crit rate by an additional 15% on a target below 30%, giving me a 45% chance to critically hit an opponent. I've also got, after an opponent blocks an attack, I do an additional 10% damage. We're also looking at 15% damage. We're also looking at another 10% crit damage multiplier. So these numbers are really starting to stack up. Remember, in the intelligence tree, we also have an additional 10% crit damage, so that works really well. Whenever I hit an opponent below 30% health, I'm going to be healing for 10% of the damage. Doesn't matter if I'm doing elemental damage or if I'm doing physical damage. On top of that, at the bottom of the tree, we also have, I gain 30% movement speed and 15% more damage as long as I'm looking at an opponent. Now, I want to point out that's looking at an opponent, so as long as I'm actually physically looking at an opponent, we're going to walk away, we're going to walk back in, we're going to get one, got the wrong weapon out. So you can see Bloodlust is kicking in. So if somebody's trying to shoot something at me, I can sidestep, I can dodge. As long as I physically got them in my line of sight, I'm getting that additional 30% movement speed. And that is incredibly fast. So let's go straight back into the opposite side. We're going all the way down through our ability here, which is going to be called Maelstrom. And on the right-hand side, whenever I do a heavy attack, I gain Grit. Now, the simplest way to understand Grit is it's basically unlimited poise with the exception of being stunned. So think of how Dark Souls armor works. It gives me that ability of poise that can't be broken during my attack unless an opponent CCs me. Knockbacks and that will not work during that window as well, alongside gravity. So when I pull an opponent in, they are going to be pulled in for 30% longer, as well as revenge. So when I block an attack by an opponent, my next hit is going to do more. We've obviously got our charge for our gap close. Reap got moving down. It has an 8-meter range. It heals me 30% of the damage. On top of that, we're also going to do an extra attack after the pull. Now, unfortunately, I can't demonstrate the pull on the attack dummy that I have in front of me, but I am going to show you the weaving combo as well. We've got our Maelstrom. On top of that, it pulls from 50% further away. Any projectile that comes at us during that time, whether it's a fireball or a arrow, will get deflected, for lack of a better term, and we do an additional spin. So that is my build that I currently have on my Great Axe. While my offhand, my life staff isn't completed right now, but the next couple of points are going to be going down here too. It's all about the utility of the battlefield. So before we go into the Great Axe, let's have a look at the utility that my Ice Gauntlet provides. I want to point out two things. If you use an ability on an Ice Gauntlet and it's damaging an opponent and you change weapons, if you change weapons, it'll instantly cancel the damage, but the debuffs will still stay on the opponent. So don't think you can apply this mad AoE, then change weapons and go in. You can apply this mad AoE, freeze an opponent, then change and dash in. That does work as well. However, something to point out is whether I'm fighting close or fighting far, you're going to notice I'm in heavy armor too, therefore I get an enhancement towards CC and crowd controlling an opponent. So when we hit somebody with this ability here, we're going to be able to chain multiple debuffs, but unfortunately it won't show you the debuff on the attack dummy. Every time I critically hit, or every time I attack an opponent, they're also going to do less damage. They're going to be unable to move, because an attack dummy can't move. They're going to be unable to move for 1 second, allowing me to constantly chain these abilities. So if we're going to have a quick look at that node is this one down here. Heavy hits on a frozen target during Ice Storm will apply Frostbite. We've also got our lower cooldown all the way through our Ice Storm. We've also got Wind Chill. Now the reason I like Wind Chill as opposed to any of the other abilities like Ice Pylon's really easy to AoE down in PvP, so I don't think it really lasts and it's that much of a great investment as opposed to at the bottom of Ultimate Chill. Here on the right side, we have Entomb, and Entomb can cleanse debuffs. Now, you can get a necklace with the ability to have something called Purity on it. Purity every 90 seconds will remove any form of debuffs on your character when they drop below 50% health, making it a phenomenal attribute to get on your necklace. Unfortunately, I don't have it on the necklace that I'm wearing, but I do have it on one of my spares, and then you can also cleanse your debuffs through Entomb too. So if you're versing something like a Poison rogue build who's going to sidestep, hit you with Poison Arrow at Keenly Jagged, therefore they've applied a double debuff on you, or even Powder Shot into sidestep with Keenly Jagged, therefore a burn and a bleed, and then they're going to hit you with another CC or something to slow you down. You can just cleanse all that stuff naturally through the necklace or through using Entomb. You can also end Entomb early if you so feel fit. So something I'm going to point out is why I believe this is the best axe build is because it has things called animation cancelling. So if you use the axe, you're going to see that the axe is very slow and sluggish when you're attacking. But there is something called weaving. Now my entire ability combo is about weaving. Some abilities cannot be weaved together, but with practice and understanding, you will be able to find out what ones work. So for example, I'm going to walk up to this dummy and I'm going to do one of 3 different attack patterns, right? We're going to start with a 6-hit combo, then we're going to do an 8-hit combo, then we're going to do a 12-hit combo, right? All of these are keeping in mind that if an opponent uses any form of stun on you, it can be really hard for you to be able to get it off. A lot of my damage that you can see is coming out is going to be based off of elemental DPS. Now these are attack dummies, so therefore they're not taking real damage, they have high resistance and all that, but you're going to see more than half my damage is coming across as an elemental effect. Now, the beautiful thing about arcane damage is arcane damage has no strength nor no weakness. So no matter if I'm fighting Lost, if I'm fighting Corrupted, if I'm fighting Angry Earth, if I'm fighting a player, it doesn't matter. I will always do the right elemental damage, as opposed to against Angry Earth, fire will do more. By an additional 30%, but they'll do less on corruption. So we've got that perfect balance no matter what kind of content we do. So let's have a look at our combo real quick. It's going to be really simple. It's going to be auto attack, both double light. Therefore, I'm getting my bonus, as you can see at the bottom, for that 5 seconds. I'm getting that 3% damage buff. So we're going to go auto into my R ability, which is my whirlwind, into another auto into our Q, into an auto F, into an auto. That is the massive long combo, but we're going to do a shorter version of that instead, because you're not obviously going to get a full combo off on a player that isn't paying attention. So we're going to go auto, into our R, into our auto, into our Q, into our pull in, into an auto, into an F, into an boom. So that is the full combo in a perfect world that you can get everything off on. However, keeping in mind that's not going to work in a lot of scenarios. Do keep in mind that you have two different forms of weapons here. So if you were to be coming against a player or somebody that you're getting the ambush on, rather than using your dash and running in there like an absolute sausage, you're better off coming in with this and then hitting them. If you hit any abilities in that, you're going to CC and lock them down. What's a player's instant reaction when they're in there? It's either to use their dash to get out, because it's doing constant AoE damage, and you can lock them down, or they're going to panic roll out. While this is all happening, you're not staying back, you're moving forward and getting closer. I've also got this ability too, and a lot of people would think it does low damage. You're right, but anyone that's blocking, that will destroy their block and go right through their stamina. So when you use that, you quickly flip to your opposite weapon and you come in. So another combo without all those weavings in between is an auto into an R, followed by a Q pull in into another auto hit. So that is a much faster version of the combo. However, you don't get to weave in all those special in-between autos. Keeping in mind that the Great Axe is a very slow attacking weapon, and based on this thing alone, you're going to have to be able to utilize the time that you have during your abilities. You do generally have long cooldowns. Now, the reason I don't like Gravity Well is it's slow, it's unreliable, and it has a long cooldown. So if we're looking at the base cooldown on Gravity Well, you're looking at 30 seconds. That is an incredibly long time with no CDR. So you're going to get it off once, possibly twice on a really long fight, but then it's just sitting on your action bar doing nothing for you. Everything else here, all my abilities that I currently have a form of pull. Unfortunately, I can't pull a test dummy, but we have an 8-meter pull on an opponent. Then our R pulls an opponent's twice. Then our F is our dash. And then on top of that, this slows opponents' movement speeds and can lock opponents down. If it starts going bad for us, we can freeze up, remove our debuffs. We can come out early if we want to. And then we can break somebody's block as well. So we are ready for every single situation that can basically come and present itself. So another thing I want to point out is a much faster combo, which is a 5-hit combo, is light, into this. So you'll notice that I did those hits really quick, and I used my dash. That dash can be used as a long-range gap close, or it can be used as an instant auto reset. So something I want to point out right now as well is there is animation clipping, and that is when you try and do abilities too fast, that you cancel your hits. For example, if I press R into Q straight away, we're going to cancel out on our second whirlwind, if you just saw then. So I just missed out on one full hit, one full rotation. And damage is very important when you try and maximize your utility in every situation. Now, something I'm going to point out here as well is there are some nodes like this one, which a lot of people are going to be thinking, why didn't you take Destin Brace? Alright, so it does 10% more armor pen to an opponent below 50% health. If we take another recap and look back over at my attributes, 150 in and 65% of my damage is based off Arcana. So magic damage. So I'm only going to be amplifying a small portion of my damage. 35% of my damage is going to get amplified off of that auto. So you can see that that is not going to be as grand or as great. So therefore we have walked away. This whole build is about immobilizing somebody and killing them, or taking on multiple people at once. I do want to point out I didn't take center of attention, even though that would help me with multiple people at once. Don't get me wrong, but I feel that there is no wasted points. At the bottom of Re, if you've got your additional hit, at the bottom down down here of Maelstrom. You've also got your additional hit, and then I have my charge. I don't need any of these because you can use the charge as a gap close, or you can use the charge as a close range hit, depending on what you want. All it requires is you to line up your opponent and maybe be that second a little bit more patient. So yet again, remember when we've got our Ice Storm out and we're doing these kind of AoEs and we can lock people down, so we can do incredible damage from a distance. I want to point out the most important thing is, if you haven't even seen at the bottom of the screen, I'm rocking 11,000 health, 11,659 or 49 health, and that's without the extra bonus I get from eating my food. So if I eat this food just for science and the video purpose, you're going to see my health is almost just 12k. I'm just under it as well. We're going to be able to look over here at our stats as well. And we're going to see that we have 200 Constitution, allowing us to hit our final node as well, giving us our almost perfect stats at 5150, 151.5, and 200. This build could work if you decided you didn't want the Ice Gauntlet. I highly recommend this build. It's different. I haven't ran into any players in PvP with it. It works pretty well in PvP for me. It works pretty well in PvE. That being said, you could swap out the 151 intelligence you have for 151 focus if you wanted to go Life Staff and Great Axe. The same principles apply to animation cancelling with most weapons in the game, but there are some combos that do not work. So if I press my Q key, which is my reap to pull them in, and my dash, you're going to notice a massive stutter between attacks. There it is right there. I've got about a 0.8 second stutter before I'm able to do that follow-up, as opposed to the flush gameplay that I have if I don't do that. Something to show as well is remember my heavy attacks, like that one there, has grit. You can always tell if an opponent has grit based on the fact they will be glowing. The only way to stop grit is through countering them, or therefore, so riposte or stunning them. So riposte is an ability only giving to a rapier in the game. So if we're going to come back through and look at our full combo, but without maximum weaving, only weaving one order, it's going to be looking like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. As opposed to the full combo would incorporate 12 hits. Therefore, I'm doing an additional 1,000 damage on the attack dummy, but an extra 3,000 damage to a player. Do remember that we have 12,000 life, so we are very tanky, we are very thick. We can see our elemental defense is over 2,000 physical and 1,600, almost 1,700 elemental. I'm not even in that great gear. This is just bits and bobs that I had lying around, so this gear is yet to improve. The important thing is that we've maximized our ability to be able to take the nodes that are important towards us. Now, I've tried builds where I have well over 300 dexterity and I'm doing large numbers, but the important thing is how important these nodes are, these individual nodes. The only other node that interests me out of everything here is the additional 10% from a heavy attack, but yet again, heavies can't be put into the weaving combo as effectively, because look at how long that ability takes. A player can easily just even sidestep away or backpedal if they're too intimidated to sidestep. Remember, we do have an additional 30% movement speed when we're looking at any opponent as well, making it easier to run down people. We have our pull on a person, we have another pull in, and then we have our dash to get to them. All else fails. We also have our utility of our slow. We take a lot of damage. We can jump into our ice. We can come out of our ice. We can push an opponent back, lower their guard. We can swap back over into our autos. So we have basically, we're ready for any single situation that can present. I will be doing more content with this build to show you guys why it is the strongest, but this is just a prime example. If we're going to also move over real quick and have a look at the Ice Gauntlet, I want to point out there are nodes in the Ice Gauntlet that do increase your crit chance, and you can have a 50% chance to critically hit with the Ice Gauntlet, as opposed to you can have a 45% chance to critically hit with the 200 axe. So as long as you're stacking crit, you could do incredible amounts of damage. I do want to point out the medium set in PvP armor, which is only eye level 520, which is quite low, does mitigate a portion of crit damage taken, alongside so does having this down here as well in Constitution. The beautiful thing about this build, having such a thick amount of Constitution, is I have room for errors. I could easily ditch 50 Constitution for the additional heavy attacks, but that's not really going to amplify my damage too much, because my damage scales based off of my intelligence. As you can see there, 50% of the damage is converted. It's actually 65 because of the elemental effect. 65% of the damage is converted into Arcana or Arcane. Damage scales off of weapon stat or intelligence, whichever is higher. In this case, it is indeed intelligence. And yes, keen speed also works on my critical with my bloodlust as well, so I have 60% additional movement speed. As you can see, guys, that is a quick rundown of what I believe is the strongest build available in the game right now. you can use animation cancelling on basically any of your weapons as long as you're timing them. You've got to be careful of your animation clipping though. You have to kind of be very patient with your attacks. So yet again, light, light, into a heavy, into a light, light, into a pull, into a follow-up, light, light, into a dash. So that's generally it. We could also weave in 2 more at the end for the extra 2, but at the same time, that is the full combo. I do like using the combo in that order as opposed to any other order. We've also got the pull in from the Q into the R, into the auto, so there's multiple different ways you can do it. So I personally like that combo the most. Maybe you can't get your double auto, but you're coming in, you're doing these hits of players trying to get away, you can pull them back in, you might miss your pull, you might use some kind of dash, you might use a fire staff dash, and then you can chase after him because you still have your F available. It's all about staying on top of somebody. As long as you're not silly and use your F, or in this case your dash in order to grab a person's attention, you should be coming in with this almost every single time, yeah? Because that locks somebody down and they can't move during that, and they take a movement speed penalty. Anyone that wants to sit at afar and duke it out with you and fight you from a distance has to respect the fact that you have a hell of a lot of elemental resistance, and you're in heavy armor, and you have 12,000 life. That is a lot of HP. That is a very comfortable amount. It's going to take a lot to be able to kill this guy. And if we've already forgot, we're going to go right back over it. We can have a 45% crit chance. We heal for 10% of the crit damage. We generally hit about 1,500 to 2.5, depending on if we auto attack or we critically hit. So we are healing a large portion. Hey, my hat's sold. We're healing a large portion of that as well. On top of that, when an opponent's health bar drops below 30%, we're healing an additional 10%. So there's 20% healing on a crit with a 45% chance to crit, and I'm hitting 1.5k to 2.5k depending on I'm critting. So I'm actually healing myself an incredible amount of HP constantly without a life staff. On top of that, I can have a health potion, I can have a regen potion, I can have all kinds of different ways to be able to heal my character up. So it's about being able to sustain, take on multiple people, control the battlefield, move around. And that is going to be the end of the video, guys. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I do educational and informative content over at Twitch. If you guys want to tune into the live stream, whether I'm playing New World, I can happily run you through all kinds of different builds as well. We have experimented with a lot of different things, and I'd be more than happy to share the wisdom that we have gathered. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.